Hello everyone and welcome to the TBH podcast here at Person-Centered Services. My name is Dustin Green. I'm the Member Relations Specialist here and I'm a co-host of the TBH podcast.
And my name is Karina Lankowski. I'm a Regulatory Compliance Specialist here at Person-Centered Services. We are bringing you this To Be Honest podcast to provide perspectives on insights about care coordination.
Yeah, and Karina, I'm looking forward to this and a conversation that I think we're going to have as Person-Centered Services continues to move forward. It's been almost 6 years now since care coordination started, and we're moving forward into some new territory for the over 17,000 people that we serve. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about that over the course of the next several months, but today specifically.
Yeah, and I can't wait to ask you a whole bunch of fun questions about the member experience.
Let's jump into it because I think member experience is interesting. I know we're going to talk about what that means here a little bit later on.
Okay, so you can tell us a little bit about who you are. Who is Justin?
So who am I? That's a good question because we talk about perspective all the time, playing this podcast, but specifically the organization talks about perspective. And I know that a lot of our employees, team members specifically come from different perspectives. And I come from the perspective of a team member here, a self-advocate here, a public speaker about advocacy issues, and someone who receives services from Person-Centered Services. So there's a lot of different perspectives. I've been receiving services for well over 20 years at this point. Actually, about 23 and a half. I'll be 24 in July, so pretty much my whole life. So who am I is a really convoluted question, but my goal of who I want to be is a strong advocate for the people we serve, for our members here within the organization, but also a leader of a better tomorrow for the community with IDD.
I love that. And I think that you're not the only one. A lot of people, I think, want to be advocates and not necessarily always have the platform to do so. So can you tell us or share a little bit about your specific role at Person-Centered Services?
So what is member relations really is what that question's asking. And I think that what it is it is my job to build relationships with our care coordination workforce and our members to just have a relationship with them and enhance the member experience. Now, the member experience is basically the way of saying customer satisfaction. I think that that's super important. And I think that our members need to have places to turn and resources. And I think that that's really what my role is here. Resources, relationships, and just overall helping enhance the experience of receiving our service.
So this podcast is one of those things that's going to help do that, right?
Yeah, this is one of those things, and Karina, let me just talk a little bit more about what are we doing to enhance that experience. Sure. And I think that, this podcast is one of those things. I'm going to be out on the road here in the next several months doing a lot of talking, a lot of listening, and a lot of meeting people that want to be heard. And I think that the other interesting thing is member relations adds another avenue for you to get help if there's an issue. And this is something that I want to stress to the people that we serve and their families. Issues are going to arise. That's going to happen, and there is help. Feel free to call your supervisors, your care coordination supervisors. You should have that contact information right at home. If you can't get a hold of the supervisor, call the customer service line and go through that complaint process. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, feel free to give member relations a call. We can always help because our job is to make sure that you are comfortable here within the organization, and we know that navigating the IDD community can be a lonely experience sometimes, Karina, and we're trying to take that out of the equation and make it so that you have all the support that you need.
I love how you had the whole point of definitely contact a supervisor, and you should have that information at home. That information usually should be provided at every life plan meeting.
It's supposed to be provided at every life plan. I argue that it should be provided more frequently, but
I appreciate your perspective. So let's go back for a second. You've been having services since almost birth, you said, right?
yeah.
So then you, I would say, started in Medicaid service.
Absolutely.
Then transitioned over to the care coordination scene. What was that like for you? The transition?
The most confusing time of my life, frankly. And I feel like that confusion is finally going away. This is 2024 now. Almost July 1st will be 6 years of care coordination. And I think that members, what you need to remember here is that care coordination is a picture of your entire life. Medicaid service coordination was just it was a service form. It's all it was. And it was a very convoluted way of saying, oh, you received Medicaid service coordination from in tandem or the resource center.
Mm-hmm.
Here's all the programs that we offer, and let's connect you to those programs on top of all of that. Medicaid service care coordination, there we go, was it is a very eye-opening, holistic experience. And I feel like it's based on health outcomes, right? And that's what's really important for us, the health outcomes.
So the big difference then between Medicaid service coordination going into care coordination was the health outcomes.
The health outcomes and the conflict, this is where I want to go. The conflict-free aspect to this. Because the member is in the driver's seat of care coordination. That is the most critical lesson I want our members to take away from today, is that they are in the driver's seat of this experience. And the experience is whatever you make it for yourself. And it all starts with the life plan, which I can't wait to talk about, because the life plan is so much more than just a document.
Then bring it up. Let's go for it. What is the life plan?
So the life plans, the way I like to look at the life plan is an instruction manual. Right? It's an instruction manual for the people who are taking care of you, the members that we serve, and those that love you. Right? What do you like? What do you not like? What are your health issues? How can we manage those for you? What do you want to work on, and how can we help you do that? What kind of instruction do you need when you're working on those goals? And I think that without the life plan, you're going to have potentially staff members who don't feel like they can best serve you, and you're not going to reach those health outcomes because it's all about, previously when we talked with the ISP, it was all about, services. And now we're talking about what does a person want. This is really the person's instruction manual to tell the people that they work with what they want.
Oh, I love the way that you put that perspective that you have. When I think about the life plan, I think from a care coordination standpoint, the life plan is literally that, the instruction manual. But how am I to know anything if I don't get it from you, right? How am I going to be able to provide the best service that I can or get the best services that I can for you if I don't know what you're looking for?
And that's interesting too, because then we start to get into a conversation about person-centered planning. And that's a whole nother avenue, because person-centered just means that you are in the driver's seat. That's all that means. So think about care coordination as being your boat, right?
Okay.
The care coordination is the boat. You're the captain of the boat, and all the people who are assisting you, the behavior support professionals, the DSPs, the day have workers, the one-on-one aides at school, the teachers, the parents, the family members, those are all the passengers of the boat. You and your families are really the ones driving this, and that's what needs to be. I hope that you recognize that, because the organization wants this member experience to be as smooth as possible.
What a great analogy to think about the boat. Like, if you're going to have a smooth ride, everybody on the boat has to work together.
Yeah, and it's not always going to be smooth, right? You're going to hit choppy waters, but that's why this member experience is so important to person-centered services. And when you ask me what's my role, it's really to listen and to learn from our care coordination workforce and from our members what are those choppy waters, and how can I help you get some of those nasty fish out of the water and make this experience a little bit smoother.
That's beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about how the life plan shapes the member's life? Like, I know we've had discussions before about safety and freedom that it brings. What does that look like?
I don't know necessarily that the life plan shapes a person's life as much as the person shapes the life plan, right? Which means, so when the person shapes the life plan, they're really shaping their own lives, because the life plan is the instruction manual. And specifically, when you look at a safeguard, and you see, range of scan, a DSP cannot deviate from that safeguard. So really, the person's needs, wants, and abilities are what shapes the life plan, which in turn acts as the instruction manual to the person's life and enhances what they're able to do because they have those things in place to do it safely.
So the life plan is providing the instructions to everybody in the way that you have told them it needs to be, so that you can feel safe.
Yeah, it's the way that you drove that life plan, right? And your needs are really shaping that life plan, which is the instruction manual, not only for the people you serve, the life plan is the instruction manual not only for the people that work with you, but it's your roadmap. This is another way to look at this. It's your roadmap to safety and freedom. It's how can we help you be safe and do what you want to do while giving you the best quality of life.
So then you've already answered what does person-centered look to you, right?
That's a different answer. I talked a little bit about what person-centeredness was, but what it looks like in practice and what it is are two different things. Person-centeredness in practice is, I think, respecting the intrinsic motivation. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna finally give away the say this. Cool.
Getting clinical on us.
Yes, it is respecting the wants, needs, and really the overall goals of the person served, but it's also making sure that the proper IDT is in place.
I like that.
Because I think that the IDT, I want you to look at your interdisciplinary teams as the detective of what they can do to help you. You're the police chief. You tell them where you want to go, and then they figure out what they need to get you there. It's a care coordinator's job to figure out where those links are, right, Karina? And previously, those back prior to 2018, those links would have been the same for almost every situation. You know, if one situation was situation X and then situation X came up with person B, the linkages are probably going to be the same going back to the Medicaid Service Coordination Organization. That is not the case anymore. Person studying this is finding the different links and the necessary links, and I think that it takes a lot of work to get there.
What would you say to people that don't have the right IDT team?
That's a really good question, and only you can determine that. I think an IDT is really the people that you trust, whether it be your service providers, your family members, whatever it be. But I feel like it's also the care coordinator's responsibility to tell you, to talk with you, not even to tell you, to talk with you about whether or not that IDT is working. And we recognize that the care coordinator is a magician. The care coordinator makes these things happen for you. And that's why I go back to the supervisor, Karina, and I say, if your care coordinator might not always be right for you, right? And that's okay. That's why we have these check boxes in place where you can call the supervisor, call the local directors, the regional directors, the customer service line. Those are in place to help you. So there's always ways to get the right IDT in place. But I think it starts with the care coordinator.
Okay. The central person to make sure they're linking you to all the correct people. But
Yeah.
you're the one that's making sure those people are right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that care coordination services cannot be successful without the right people. And it needs to be the right people for you, because the right people for me might not be the right people for you. So my ComHab staff might not work for you, Karina. So that's something that's all what this comes back to. ComHab workers, care coordinators, and service providers are all part of that IDT too. So you really need to know, and this is important. When you get into care coordination, you need to know what you want and need, because the care coordinator can't help you get there if you and the people close to you can't tell them what you need.
Let's move on to some positive quote for the day.
Yeah, let's
Today's positive quote is, "The best ideas emerge when very different perspectives meet."
And that's interesting, because that's why we're sitting here, right? Because you and I have two very different perspectives. And I think that those two different perspectives lead to great information, which leads to great positive stuff.
I would agree. Diversity in perspectives. Doesn't that mean that most, or hopefully all people would be represented to be able to have say.
All people need to be represented, and that's the goal of member relations, is to make sure that as many people as humanly possible are represented on a daily basis.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dustin, for sharing your perspective.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for tuning in to our first ever Person-Centered Services To Be Honest podcast. We hope to see you in May, but until then, stay honest.